Hi, this is a quick overview of the passive states. So there are two new states, passive and DCP passive. All DCP options are pink. Passive allows you to, it basically does what you could do previously in vanilla by manually editing files. You can set the enemy state index to a state that doesn't exist, and that works because the game's code, let's see, it would be step default. So this is the switch for the state. A switch statement says, let's check what the state is. If it's this, so in this case, if it's p state idle, and I'll show you what that translates to. If it's p state idle, which is 0, then run this code. If it's something else, sitting, sleeping, etc., etc. So if we check for pstate.sleeping, oh, okay, it's not in that file. Maybe it's in AI step. Okay, so it does that. So the reason it works is the reason manually editing the file to change the state. And if we change the state now to, let's say, idle, state idle, you can see at the bottom of the hover text there's a 0, which is the state index. If we change that to sit, the index changes to 1, and let's double check that sitting is 1. Good. And if we set it to passive, that number is 100. Now if you look at our step AI, it goes down to only p-state smoking, which is p-state smoking 3. And you'll notice that it stops, the numbers stop at 24, 20, oh, those are DCP. 26. For most enemies it stops at kind of a bit higher up. But basically it means that if you set the state manually to a number higher than 26, then you can make him do nothing, make the enemy do nothing, because there are no cases for the index that you've specified. So what would happen is the enemy just stays still and nothing happens. Let's show you how that looks now. So he can see me, he can hear me. Okay, he can only see me, but he doesn't react. Now, why is there a new state? Well, it does two things. So first, it fixes the animations. So if we take a grunt, let's move that back. Okay, state is idle, that's good, that's what we want. Save that. State is idle, and you'll see he has this little smoking or frozen breath animation. Now if we set his state to a state that doesn't exist, in this case 100, because the number is arbitrary, but I think DECP only supports up to 100 or 105 or so. Let's go back to that. Oh, of course, I fixed it. Okay. Right. Yeah, state 100 is fixed. Okay, so let's edit the file manually. It would be in strip club. Oh, it's JSON, isn't it? That makes things a bit easier. Okay, so it's O scaly 2, right? And var, which var is state? I think it's state. I think it's var 1. Let's see. Special. Let's go general. Var 1 is 100. That's good. Perfect. So if we change that to something like 50, which isn't a valid state, var 1 is 50. And reload. Well, that's not good. That shouldn't happen. Oh, okay. So I wonder why that happened. Anyway, so why does this breath look like that? Well, let's show you. In, I think it's step default, the default state sets image speed. Okay. And that controls how fast the sprite animations play. Now, if an enemy starts with a state that doesn't exist, they never get their image speed set. So their image speed will be set for each of these states. So let's go back to sleeping, and image speed is 0. And that's, I guess, if they're waking up, and then once they've woken up, so they're on the last frame of their sleep animation, they've woken up, their state gets set to idle, and then their image speed is set to something else. How do we do that? Okay. So what does p state 100 do, the new passive state? Well, if we go to state 100 is this one. That's all it does. It just changes their sprite to their idle sprite and sets their image speed. And this is the other one. This is the new DCP exclusive one. Now, the passive state will work in vanilla, but you will get this issue because 100 is still an invalid state, or a state that doesn't exist. So onto the second one. You can probably tell what it does. It sets no hearing to true, so they can't hear you. This is normally only used in the credits. Yeah, you can take my word for it. Oh, there it is. Bingo. That is going through TI would be instance create a created instance of an enemy. For that, in that case, it's zombie 1. If your progress is less than 10, then it's one of these. If it's less than 19, it's one of these. If it's less than 27, it's one of these guys. So they're created, and then their hearing, no hearing, is set to 1. Their sight range is set to -1, which basically means nothing. And that was back here. Yeah. So we're doing the same thing here for the deaf and blind. Again, this state will work in vanilla, but you won't get the deaf and blind effects. These little, the text below them, P and PBD, that means passive. That means passive, blind, and deaf. If you load a level where the state is set to something else that's custom, say 50, 75, whatever, an arbitrary number that's less than 100, then you won't get the letter, but it should work. I'm pretty sure I've added support for any number that's less than 100. So let's try this out. Not sure why it's taking so long. Maybe it's because I did pretty printing. Let's compress that again. See if it fixes it. Yeah, okay. The reason it takes a while is probably because GameMaker, whenever you're reading a text file, it reads it line by line. So the more lines you have, the longer it takes. Okay, so what have we got? We've got these guys who are blind and deaf, so if I shoot my gun, they won't hear anything. Oops. I suppose they'll react if they get hit, I think that was. Okay. Some of them do, some of them... it looks like he's not doing anything, but yeah, he's gonna go and find cover if he can find it, or he's just going to wander. Oh no, I put him too close to the door. Chaos ensuing. Let's move him over a little bit. Oh, actually, yeah, we can use this guy. He's already in the passive state. So let's save. So nobody should be able to hear me. This guy's only passive, so he won't react unless I shoot him. He'll get mad. So he is not blind. He is not deaf. He can hear me. Maybe he can't hear me. He can certainly see me, which means he can shoot me. These guys can't see me, they can't hear me. You can do what you like with them. So this lets you create story levels. The story level kind of depends on the enemies being stuck still and not moving, but you could probably set patrols for them actually. Let's see what happens. Okay, I understand why. There will be code in the idle case that is setting the patrol. It's making them walk, basically. I guess I don't need to dig into the code for that. So what are we discussing? Limitations. Oh yeah. As you can see, it's only setting the sprite to idle. So there's currently no support for other passive states. I'll probably add that in later because that would be cool to be able to do. So if we have a look, if we set this left bartender to passive blind and deaf, he's no longer pouring, which kind of sucks. It's quite a bit more work than it looks, setting the passive states. So yeah, that's probably something for further down the line. So we go over here. It should just be this guy that sees me. There it is. Okay. That's it. That's passive states. Cheers.